Did you ever watch the show Touched by an Angel? I was a teenager in my mid to late teens at the show's peak, and probably not its target audience. So I'll be honest, I never actually saw an episode. I served in a church through my time in seminary, and one of the congregants had been a writer for the show. I still never saw it. Now, why bring it up? Because if I was going to give chapter 12 a title, it would be Touched by an Angel. Peter the apostle and Herod the king were both touched by an angel to very different results. Sandwiched in between these two, when Peter shows up at the house of Mary, the mother of John Mark, kind of knocking on the door, the disciples are convinced it's not Peter at the door. It's an angel or his angel. Isn't Acts great? Angels in this chapter. A few chapters later, we find a demon-possessed girl speaking in tongues, healings, and a real, honest-to-God sorcerer. Reading the Bible as moderns can be challenging at times. It certainly pushes back against our scientific, our reductionistic worldview. But when you read Acts chapter 12, the characters seem to be as surprised by the miraculous as we are. Herod Agrippa was the brother of the Herod we become familiar with in the Gospels. He's the father of King Agrippa that Paul encounters in Acts chapters 25 and 26. Luke tells us this Herod had James, the brother of John, killed. He found it was a pretty popular move, so he decided to keep going. This time going after Peter. After arresting him, he put him in prison, handing him over to be guarded by 4 squads of 4 soldiers each. Herod intended to bring him out for public trial after the Passover. Now in John, we're told when the soldiers crucified Jesus, they took his clothes, dividing them into 4 shares, one for each of them. That is, there were 4 soldiers guarding Jesus. And perhaps noting their lack of success and the aftermath that ensued, Herod Agrippa wasn't going to take any chances. So give me 4 squads of 4 soldiers each. Not so much for that plan. The church was mobilized into action, and their action was prayer. Luke tells us the church was earnestly praying to God for him. Now, the word earnest can be translated zealous or of unfailing intensity. I mean, they were getting after it. They were, Luke tells us the night before Herod was to bring him to trial, Peter was sleeping between 2 soldiers, bound with 2 chains, and sentries stood guard at the entrance. Isn't that an incredible picture? On the eve of what very well could be his death, what likely was his death, surrounded by soldiers, bound in chains, and Peter isn't anxious, he's snoozing. He had peace. That whatever was to happen, God was in control. Suddenly an angel of the Lord appeared, and light shone through the cell. He struck Peter on the side and woke him up. In other words, Peter was touched by an angel. "Quick, get up," he said, and the chains fell off Peter's wrists. Then the angel said, "Put on your clothes and sandals." And Peter did so. "Wrap your cloak around you and follow me," the angel told him. Peter followed him out of the prison, but he had no idea what the angel was doing was really happening. He thought he was seeing a vision. When the angel had delivered Peter to safety and disappeared, Peter realized, this actually happened. It was no vision. From there, he went to the house where the disciples were praying. Peter knocked at the outer entrance, and a servant named Rhoda came to answer the door. When she recognized Peter's voice, she was so overjoyed, she ran back without opening it and exclaimed, "Peter is at the door." "You're out of your mind," they told her. When she kept insisting that it was so, they said it must be his angel. And Peter kept on knocking, and when they opened the door, they saw him. They were astonished. The disciples were praying fervently, but they certainly weren't sure that their prayers would lead to deliverance. So unsure were they that when Peter did show up, the evidence that their prayers had been answered They were astonished. They considered it more likely an angel's appearance than Peter himself. I think that's a wonderful lesson on prayer. Don't allow your doubts of a prayer's fulfillment impact the fervor with which you pray. Perhaps we pray, God, I know this would be unexpected. God, I know this would be astonishing, but I'm going to pray it anyway and trust that you are in control and that you can do it. Church, let us be people of prayer regardless of our doubts, regardless of what the consequences may be. Have a blessed week.